Hey, so what we're going to do today is a little bit of grilling. You know, one of my favorite things to grill is actually pizza. You know, for me, it's one of those things that it's great for family and friends and entertaining because everybody gets to be involved in the grilling process. Usually it's the grill master, which I like to think of myself as. Most guys do, but this gets everybody involved. And so everybody gets to make the kind of pizza that they like. So to start out, we need to get the dough going, and that takes about an hour and a half. So you got to start on that ahead of time to, you know, let it rise and do all those things. So the recipe I like to use is pretty easy. We start out with 3 cups of bread flour, and that's a big difference between all-purpose and cake flour because there's actually a higher amount of gluten, which is long strands of these amino acid proteins that basically make it chewy, and not good for cake, not good for cupcakes, anything like that. But boy, when it comes to bread and pizza dough, it's perfect. So we're going to do 3 cups of bread flour. I'm going to go ahead and put in a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of salt. I tend to use kosher, but it's up to you. Also, I need 1 teaspoon of sugar. Some people actually like to do a little bit more than that, make the bread a little bit sweeter, but again, that's kind of personal preference. Next, I need 2 tablespoons of olive oil or vegetable oil. I tend to go with olive oil, but that's more of a personal preference. So I've got 1 in there, and I've got 2 in there. Next, I need to add some active dry yeast. I use the dry stuff. Works perfect for this. Got that, and then just add the water. And for the water, we're just going to use a cup. That's like 1 cup and maybe 2 tablespoons in there. So that kind of makes it all nice and neat. I'm going to add that in, and now we're just going to mix it all together as much as we can. You're going to see that it takes a little bit of a while to knead it in there and get everything going, but a lot of the process is really just waiting it out. Once we get that going, once we get that done, you'll see it gets a little bit chewy, a little bit stringy, and that's good. That's actually what lets us get the pizza dough very thin, so that ends up working out pretty well. So I tend to try to get it in as much of a ball as I can and mixed up nice and good. Now what we're going to do is simply cover that up. And we'll let that rise. We're going to go with about an hour on that first rise, and you'll see it kind of expand, get big, and then what we're going to do is knock it down and kind of rework it a little bit and let it rise for a little bit again after that. And then from there we're going to be in great shape. But here, next step, probably got to start on the veggies. So one of the next things we're going to need to do is get some of the ingredients prepared. And one of the things about grilling on, grilling pizza, because all the heat is really coming from the bottom, and normally that's not exactly how it works in a real grilling oven. We have to make sure to, I can't keep the pizza on the grill for very long, which means my meat has to be cooked. So anything that you're going to put on there, whether it's chicken or sausage, anything has to be done. So that works out easy for some of the smoked kind of meats, like if you have pepperoni's classic. The kids love pepperoni pizza. For me, I like to add in some Canadian bacon. I'm a Canadian bacon and pineapple guy. So maybe you just cut up in strips, something that is pretty easy to do. So if I've got Canadian bacon, I've got sausage. I love to cook up just regular sausage links. You can get all kinds of cool flavors like apple, and this is I think a smoked chicken with mozzarella, and you kind of cook those up, dice them up. It work great on a pizza. But next thing we need to do is dig into some of the other veggies. Veggies are important to have. So again, we're just kind of preparing a whole bunch of stuff. I like to do some red onion. I love doing sun-dried tomatoes. They work out really well on a pizza. They tend to be a little chewy, so we have to almost saw them down. Let's see, what else do we have? We have some tomatoes, regular tomatoes. Some people like the fresh tomatoes on there. With these, you have to be a little careful because they tend to have a lot of moisture content. that can cause, you don't want a soggy pizza. So a lot of times I'll just kind of scrape out the innards and use it that way. Any ingredient you put on here that you can do thin is going to be perfect. So that way they'll heat through quick without needing to stay on the grill for very long. Some people like to keep these in strips. Some people like to chop them up. One of my favorite things to do is a roasted red pepper. Since I've got the grill stoked up pretty hot, let's go char this bad boy. So the key to getting a roasted red pepper is to get your grill really hot. Crank that baby up as much as you can. We're talking at least 500 degrees. And we're just going to char this thing. We're going to get it all nice and black, and then later on peel all that black off. So Susan, my wife, is the bread pizza dough roller extraordinaire. So she's going to be making those. Sometimes there's a combination of whether we like to do it, a bunch of little ones. Some people like to get it creative and they want to try little bits of a whole bunch of different kinds of pizzas. But we tend to just go straight for, a single serving. And if people want to share, if people want to do different things, that's great. But see, she's rolling out some flour, spreading it out. The whole trick is just getting it thin. So our next step is we've got to actually grill one side of the pizzas to give it some stability, and then that's when we give it back to your guests and your family to start. So what we're going to do is put a little bit of olive oil on it first. I usually drizzle some on and then use a brush to coat it, and just do one of these at a time. But you'll notice one thing that we did is we put wax paper in between them to keep them from just separate. But you do have to make sure you put enough flour on there so it doesn't eventually even stick to the wax paper. But notice all I'm doing is putting it directly on the grill. Nothing else on there, just sits right on there and it works out great. Now, I don't think we're going to get any awards for perfect circles. We'll kind of spot check them. It's usually, I don't know, about 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. And just kind of keep checking it until to see what, those two are probably done. Okay guys, we're ready. Most of the cheese is melting, which is about as long as we get. We don't get to, you're not going to get a browned top pizza on this, just because again, the heat that we've got going on the bottom. But I'll pull off the ones that look done to me. I'm going to move some of these ones that have taking a little bit longer. I'm going to move them to a little more indirect heat so we don't toast any more at the bottom. Let those cook a little bit longer. In the meantime, I can start cutting these up.